at the end of the episode of our first episode on season 5, I mentioned I was trying to figure out which episode this was from. I was right. It was episode 2. At the very end, Mrs. Wheeler writes a name down on a pad of paper. Boy, oh boy. Welcome to the HolmFront, where we keep everything objectively subjective. Stranger Things, Season 5, Part 2, the last 2 episodes of the first
volume
section. Yeah, the first volume. There you go. So episodes 3 and 4. So we just got done watching just to catch back up the last episode. It was worth watching 3 times. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna start with episode 3, and we're gonna do another. We'll just kind of like do a warm up, I guess, before we get into spoilers.
Okay.
This one's called the Turnbow Trap. I think it's referencing the Parent Trap. I don't know, but funny name.
Okay, I'll take that reference. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do another speed run because it's fun. I like these. We listed off a bunch of references from the first 2 episodes, or the first episode we did on all the things we think that they were referencing in these 4 episodes. We're just gonna go with 3 of the things that we were kind of seeing throughout episode 4.
And this time we're going to actually tie it in to something.
We're gonna tie it in. So I'll let you start with Ferris Bueller. I'm going to turn down my light while you do that.
Yeah, so mine is Ferris Bueller's Day Off because in this episode, when they're chasing after the Demogorgon, they turn into the everybody's yard, and so they're just crashing through everyone's fence.
A bunch of fences, yeah. He's just like, turn left. He's just like going through a bunch of backyards.
Yeah, I think I feel like there's something else that's probably a closer reference, but to me it was Ferris Bueller's Day Off because he's running through everybody's yard and then jumping
just, like,
over the fences.
Over fences and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, is that what's happening here? So
Could be.
Okay, yeah, you give me
Funny.
one.
So I actually came up with another one that I had forgotten, and that was Predator. So Will is consistently able to see through the eyes of the Demogorgons, and when he's in there, it's got like this kind of red hazy. So it looks a lot like the Predator films, and we actually did a review on Badlands and the original Predator. But if you go back and watch those movies, it's very similar aesthetic wise.
Yeah,
so that was another one I saw. And then the last one that's kind of pervasive, Home Alone.
Yes, which, to be honest, Home Alone actually exists as far back as season 1 because they set up traps in the buyer's house.
Yeah, they do the same thing. Yep.
Yeah, so they set up traps, but this one feels like it has that similar montagey. Okay, this, and that. Yes. All kind of happening at once. It's very quick, so it reminds me of that scene in Home Alone. But then even the dinner scene that happens, like Derek feels like a total like manifestation of Fuller. Fuller, easy on the Pepsi. Just this like kid who
just gorging it out,
sees the world in their unique way, and you're not gonna.
He certainly does. I love he's just taunting everybody at the table. His dad just collapses, and he's just laughing hysterically. He doesn't know what to do with it. Yeah, those are fun. Okay, so let's officially jump into spoilers. If you watched episode 1, like we started at the beginning and we said at the end. If you haven't yet, just go watch Stranger Things Season 5 and come back. There's no way we can talk about this without revealing a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But we're going to leave the best for last. So at the very end of the episode, we'll talk about our favorite portion of the first 4 episodes as they exist.
Yeah.
So with that being said, spoilers. Wrong button.
Also, if you have a reference and you want to tie it to something, drop it in the comments. Love to hear more.
Yeah, and at the end,
there should be a compendium. We have to catalog it. They're a codex.
Yeah, exactly.
Stranger Things references.
I want to see how many we can pull out. So just list everything from season 1 to season 5. Anything you think was referenced, just put it in there. We've gotten through a bunch of them, and I have a whole series on Stranger Things, so just go watch those videos too. But also comment on what your favorite part of these first 4 episodes were, because
if it's not,
wait
to
the end. You'll see what ours is. You're probably not going to be surprised, but whatever. Okay, spoilers.
Okay.
At the end of the episode of our first episode on season 5, I mentioned I was trying to figure out which episode this was from. I was right. It was episode 2. At the very end, Mrs. Wheeler writes a name down on a pad of paper. So Nancy and Mike go up to her. She's all messed up in this hospital bed. They're basically tormenting her because they've got to wake her up from her drug-induced stupor from surgery.
Yeah.
She can't speak. So it's kind of a hard scene to watch. It's rough. But But they're like, hey, we have a theory that Holly's imaginary friend might be tied to what happened to her. So they have to explain that she's been taken. And now with that information, they want to know who Mr. What's-It is, if Holly has said anything else about it.
Can you imagine just being like so devastated? You're woken up after having been attacked by a monster. You're trying to process that monsters exist in the world. And then like you're told your
Yeah,
kid's
you come
missing.
face to face with it. You try and fight it off, and it still gets your daughter. You also have seen Joyce go through losing Will on the first season.
Right.
So she knows what this possibly means. And then, but they're like, we want to ask you some questions about her imaginary friend. So if you give us a minute,
and that's
hold back the tears, please.
Yeah, I mean, but just to be able to comprehend, it's like you can't. So she's put into this super high stressful situation, which.
Right. But she adapts pretty well.
She does, yeah, which is commendable. But it's also like the kind of thing where, because the doctor doesn't give this reason because he doesn't know. But like, if you knew, then I'd be like, you can't wake her up.
Yeah, please don't.
It's like, no, like she's in dire straits right now.
She's barely hanging on to life. Don't go and be like, hey, your daughter's gone. This crazy monster from a different universe came and got her.
By the way, all that stuff you probably weren't taking too seriously because it didn't seem like it was real.
It's all real.
It's all very real. Yeah. So do you have any
information about it, by the way.
Us?
Sorry. Okay, so she writes down a name, and it's Henry. So obviously now we know Vecna's back. Vecna is around, and he's been insidiously invading Holly's mind, which is just ugh.
Yeah.
Okay, so all that to say, we are now in episode 3. So we're going to do episode 3 first and then 4.
We're going to follow it mostly sequentially.
As best we can.
Yeah.
And we're going to try not to rabbit trail too much. There's a lot to go over, and we want to focus mostly on 4. If you've watched the season, you'll know why. Okay. Henry establishes in the beginning this relationship he's got with Holly. So he brings her into, if you've watched season 4, the refurbished house that he was, the dilapidated, haunted-looking house, what he lived in when he was a kid, brings her in, expresses that there's danger, that her family and her friends are all in danger, that he's going to save them all and bring them all here. And Holly just needs to stay in the house. So he's gaining his collecting process, whatever that means. So he's like, you have free reign of the house. Do what you wish, but do not leave it. Don't go into the woods. Just stay here on the premises. So you get to see him again. He's in like this top hat and a suit, and he's got a pocket watch, which references back to season 4, and establishes him as not only not gone, but returning to form in order to like appear a certain way to Holly specifically.
Yeah,
and you learn that that's expanded further in the later in the season, or in the episode. I'm sorry. So you have a second point on this. I'm sorry, I was going to move to your point, but do you have anything else to say about that one? There's not much else like that I have for.
It's a good setup for it. Yeah, I mean, well, I'm going to kind of deviate to talk about Mike for a moment and then bring us back if that works.
Go for it.
Okay, so I have a theory, which is why I'm doing this. And my theory is that Mike is not wrong. He has not been wrong about anything. And if we just take that into account, and I don't want to say everything that he's right about because that is kind of like spoilers for later, which we'll get to, but just he's not wrong about anything. And there's a scene in episode 1 of this season where he goes up to Holly and he tells her that you are a cleric. And that among the cleric abilities, he's describing like she's a healer and all this stuff. And then he says, and best of all, you can make a dimensional doorway. Now that's significant, I think, because Holly is in a space in this like kind of mental prison that Vecna has created for her. And so I think she will create a dimensional doorway out of that.
Okay. Interesting. So you think she's the key to breaching between worlds that no one else has?
Yes.
Vecna obviously has got it with his Demogorgons, but the humans largely don't.
Yes. So I think that Holly will somehow play into that based on the fact that he's not been wrong. Because like he's the one who figures out how to properly extract Derek so that they can get the Demogorgon.
Yeah.
And he's the one who comes up with the better plan to extract the kids from the base. And he gives Will very pertinent advice that pays off. So he's on it. If you're not paying attention to what Mike is saying, I think you're off.
Listen carefully.
I'm just following the wisdom of Mike. As the experienced dungeon master that he is. He's on point.
Which, if you watch the first episode for this, we're big fans of where Mike's at in this season. He's really bringing it home. Great.
And I also feel like just Holly is going to have a bigger role to play because they're dedicating so much time to her. She's got this whole sequence. It's kind of like Red Riding Hood, kind of like Alice in Wonderland. It's a little hard to place just because it's unusual. Usually they reference something from the 80s in pop culture, but now they're going like way back into like a classic piece of literature, which I suppose they did with Lord of the Rings. They've done that a few times, but I kind of don't know how much that one should count because they also play D&D, and D&D itself is a reference of Lord of the Rings.
It could be. I mean, they established Holly as a reader. She's reading Wrinkle in Time, and so I'd imagine that she's reading stuff like Alice in Wonderland and the like. The only reason we're saying this is she dons a blue dress that's very reminiscent, at least of the Disney cartoon Alice in Wonderland.
But which would have been actually during the 80s, right? Or 70s?
No, it was before. That was like 50s. Alice in
Wonderland
is it really that Disney, old? It's old.
Oh, wow.
Really old. So she would have been aware of this stuff, and then she puts on a red like collar,
and then has the hood,
and that's something from the Boy Scouts that Henry would have had in his chest, and then she puts on a hood later, and that's like a yellow one, but it's very clearly referential of like a Little Red Riding Hood. But she goes traipsing off into the woods,
right,
and then she meets with a character later, so it's almost like, you know, the big bad wolf, I guess, would be Henry. Maybe that's what it's trying to reference.
Well, yeah, because he's lying to her about his true nature, right?
Yeah.
That's concealed. So, yeah, there's definitely that reference.
But there's a lot of visual representation, I guess. So, for whatever they're going to do with it, I'm sure it's going to be brilliant. But for now, this is what we have. So, we're working with what we got.
Yeah. Another weird, interesting symbol is like when she's walks away from the woods. So she gets a letter when she's there asking from Henry, supposedly, like, oh, I need your help. Come find me out in the woods at this location. Draws a little map. And she's like, kind of thinks about that, and she's getting a lot of mixed signals because
Henry explicitly walks around to the front porch and says, do not go into the forest.
Right.
And then she gets a note supposedly from Henry saying, walk through the whole forest and come to me.
Yes. So it's like, what do you trust? But she's a kid.
Right.
So eventually she decides to trust it, and she goes out there. And as she's walking out there, there's this shot of a couple of scorpions, which just is way too intentional. Because you could show anything in the forest, like, why scorpions? And scorpions, in terms of like myth, I mean, all I know of is that scorpions can't control themselves. It's in their nature to be evil, essentially, is the story, right? It's like a frog or something who's like, oh, I take you across the river. Scorpion's like, sure. He's like, hop on my back. And then he's taking the scorpion across, and the scorpion stings the frog. And the frog is like, why did you do that? And he's like, well, I'm a scorpion. What did you expect?
It's in my nature. I mean, I've got to do it.
Right.
But they don't do anything else. They just show the scorpions. So Holly sees them on a rock. So these are all things we're just conjuring up as to what potentially the show. But it's a lot of deceit, a lot of insidious type themes that go with Holly and what she's dealing with Henry. So I guess it just kind of goes with that. Regardless, so we're going to give one of those big spoilers here because it's all kind of laid together, and we want to focus on the other stuff all in one. So
yeah,
we're going to jump into Holly because she kind of bounces throughout the whole episode and then into episode 4 as well. But the character that she ends up meeting is Max. So Max is trapped within Henry/Vecna's mind in his memories. And she's prevented from getting back to her body by Henry himself. So the way that she escapes is that she runs back to a portion of his mind that he's afraid to enter. So now she has set up a fort, kind of like Lost Boys / Tom Sawyer-esque imagery there. She's like, or I guess like Swiss Family Robinson or something. She's got like a fort set up in these rocks, and she's got books and all this stuff. So like survival type character now. She pulls Holly in, and she begins to explain how she's trapped there, what she's doing, and then how they're going to proceed to get out. She knows the way out, but it's prevented from Henry/Vecna. So Holly needs to help her. So she's catching on to what Henry's trying to do. They have this long conversation over multiple episodes, or these 2 episodes over multiple points in time as they're jumping back and forth with the other characters of the show.
Yeah.
All very interesting stuff, but it was interesting to see Max again because the way that she tries to come back is she has to wander around Vecna's mind and then finally stumbles her way into where she needs to go, and that's the portal out. And the portal's held open by Lucas playing the Kate Bush song from the previous season. Okay, all that to say, do you have anything to add here?
No, you're doing great.
Oh, thanks.
So what did you think of Max? Her reintroduction.
Just trying to draw this out.
Well, I mean, I'll give you my opinion if you want, but I don't know where you're going with this, other than to
that
talk
was it.
about Max.
I was just placing those two in there and what is going on with those two so that we can just shift out.
Yeah, because they're really isolated from everyone else as of now. They're in this like
Yeah.
mind battle with Vecna. So yeah, it's best to just address them on their own.
Yeah, because they don't have much to do except for the fact that Will uses that as a link to find out that he's able to see certain things. And one of the things he saw was through Holly's eyes. That's the only thing that it really connects to. The rest of it's all isolated. It's just Max and Holly. So I wanted to address it separately and then move to the next stuff. So I don't think I have too much else to add outside of that.
Yeah, not too much. I mean, yeah, I mean it's working for me. It's interesting.
It is.
I'm not sure. It is odd that the references seem to be kind like they feel super deliberate. Like the blue Alice in Wonderland looking dress. It feels like such a conscious choice.
Oh, yeah.
The hood, like walking out into the forest, like
It's
just
the hood over the dress because it's not red.
Yeah,
But it's clear imagery that looks a lot like Red Riding Hood. And it's from 3 separate sources. So I watched it with someone. And then, so like I independently thought of it. And then that was mentioned by the person that I was watching with. And then you said it also.
yeah.
And so I was like, okay, so this is a clear reference. Like, it's not just something I'm just seeing randomly. Like, everybody caught this reference.
Right. We just don't really know why.
Right.
Or what if there's like something deeper to look into.
It probably
or if
is
it's
because
just a
there's
nice
always
aesthetic.
there's always the subtle one, like the scorpion thing.
Right.
But then there's something they tie it into later. So like, clearly she's traipsing through the woods. Like that can easily be pulled a number of different directions with the Red Riding Hood imagery.
Yeah.
But it's probably going to reference something later. Woodsman or wolf or whatever, wolves in sheep's clothing. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like maybe there's a grandma in there somewhere.
A
What
granny
big
shows
teeth
up.
you have? Who knows?
Yeah. Well, you know, I think to reaffirm too that it is referencing like older books, is that as she's walking in the forest, there's this one shot where it overlays the map that had been drawn for
Yes.
her. And so it's like her walking through the
That
pieces
is-
of the
yeah.
map. That feels like the literature coming alive in a way, right?
Very old school filmmaking too. What it
It
feels
felt
like.
that way. Yeah.
Like Indiana Jones would do that, where they had the map overlay and it would fly, but you could see the plane
Yes.
flying behind it
and then
stuff.
it fades to like him on the plane and he
Right.
puts his hat down and
Exactly.
yeah, it's that kind
Classic.
of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Anything
Uh-huh.
else we want to go over with Holly and Max?
No, I mean I'm interested. I will say I guess one thing is before Max is able to escape, like right at the moment where she's about to, she sees the memory of or like with the reality rather of Lucas sitting by her side holding her hand and he's got the Kate Bush song playing, her favorite song. But then the tape runs out and then that's why the connection's broken and she's not able to reach it. Either that or because Lucas removes his hand to reset the tape so that he isn't touching her anymore, so that human connection is now being lost. But Vecna doesn't seem to be around. It seems to be like just coincidence that's keeping her at bay.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
I don't know.
bad
He
timing.
doesn't show up, or he kind of shows up shortly after that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because it's in that like room where he basically killed her in the mind end of things, not in the physical home.
Right.
So yeah, I think because he's continuously leaving. That's something that's established, is that he's not in all spots of his memory at the same time. So like he traps Holly there, but it seems like he leaves on occasion. That's why he tells Holly not to leave the house. So it's almost like he's going somewhere. It's odd. There's like multiple different versions of Henry/Vecna. Another thing that'll be interesting for sure, but they set up a lot of world building within the like abilities of Vecna that are all explored by Holly and Max within this memory state.
It might be interesting too to see, because he's the place where Max is holed up in this like kind of dusty, rocky, like sort of canyon looking area. She brings Holly in there and they explains the situation, but she describes how Vecna will not come into that space for some reason. He's like terrified of it.
Yeah.
So now that raises a lot of questions. What's he scared of? Because the wall that they're in seems very reminiscent, I think, of the wall that they're dealing with in the Upside Down. But that I assumed was his creation. And now I'm starting to question if that's the case, because it's odd that he would be afraid to go to somewhere in his own memories. Don't
I
you
mean, if
think?
he's warping it, but that is to assume, that is correlated. It might not be.
Yeah.
It seems like something to just guard what he's doing from people like L.
Mm.
But who knows? Maybe that is correlated. We'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see as the episodes come out. Okay, so with that, let's transfer out away from Max and Holly, and let's jump into. I guess we'll just jump into L. So she's out in the Upside Down with Hopper now.
Yes.
And we now discover that they have an ability to suppress her powers. They have what they call kryptonite, and that was the Superman reference that we mentioned in the first episode. They've got like this sound machine on the top of their Humvees that shut her down. I want to mention that I was extremely frustrated, and I thought I was the only one until you watched it with me, and then you said the same thing. So I'm really happy that I'm not the only one. So when they show up, Hopper and Elle are hiding, and he's realizing that something's wrong with her. Now, he has no other information except for the fact that these military guys are here, and there's a piece of equipment that he doesn't recognize. So he tries to keep them hidden, but Elle is like freaking out, and she's being really loud. So they eventually catch on to the fact that they're not alone, these military guys. So they start to direct their attention to where Elle is. My first thought, which I thought would be Hopper's first thought, shoot the only thing you don't recognize, because that's probably your problem.
Right.
Instead, no. He just starts a fight with the guys. And so he gets pinned down.
Right.
And Elle is suppressed. So I'm like, your greatest weapon, they could probably end this in like 30 seconds. You're not going to free up. I was frustrated because it happens later in the season 2. They go to this facility where he can clearly see where these things are at. It's like, just shoot it.
Right.
But he leaves it on the whole time they're there.
You doing?
Like, you're killing her. Just take care of the one thing that's the problem. It was so irritating. But I'll jump off that soapbox. It was just annoying to me.
I'm with you there. Yeah, I was like, oh man, like the connection seems real obvious to us.
It's so obvious.
I feel like you should be able to put 2 and 2 together.
Because he like looks at it. That's why we see it. It's like, I don't know. What should we do? I don't know. Just take out the one thing that you know is the problem. Let's do that.
It's different if like he never catches on, but he does catch on.
Yeah.
And so when he does, and then chooses not to do anything about it, and then chooses to do something about it after the situation's gotten really hairy,
right?
It's like, what?
Yeah. Why wasn't this your first decision? You're smarter than this. You're better than this, Hopper. What the heck?
Whatever.
Whatever. Anyway, we'll move on from there. So that's the only important thing about all of that outside of the complaining is that Elle now has some kind of suppressive thing that's out there. And it affects anybody with her abilities, which would include Henry or whoever else.
Which is why she suspects that the military may be hiding someone.
Right.
And she thinks it would be Henry because they're using that equipment to suppress his powers.
They developed this equipment, therefore they must have some method of testing that. So the way that they discover that is once they win this fight, they capture one of the guys from that little squad. And she then proceeds to show us that she now has Professor X abilities. She explores his mind. And she pokes and prods around until she sees a door in this lab.
Couldn't she always do that?
She could find people through the Upside Down, but I don't remember her going through people's minds like that.
Oh.
It was like invading his brain and his memories.
That's true.
Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think so. I think this is a new one. Anyway, she gets to a door that she cannot see past, whether that be because the guy doesn't know what's beyond that door or he's able to block her out of it.
Yeah.
But she's not able to get past that vault, but she believes that Henry is locked in there and that he's the one that they're suppressing.
Yeah.
Later on, Hopper explains that that's not possible because things are still happening that seem to be dictated by Henry.
Like the sending out of the Demogorgons to capture Derek and whoever,
So he's like, why would that still be happening if they were suppressing Henry? So he's like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but we're going to go and check it out anyway because clearly it needs to be.
Right.
So then they proceed on their mission to go to the Upside Down base that the military has there.
Since this is a full-on spoiler episode, do you want to just get into who that reveal is?
Yeah.
Any thoughts? Because I don't know that there's too much to say about it.
It's like the one thing that you can extrapolate from that episode. So, why not? So 8's back. Famously, our least favorite episode of season 2.
I think it's everyone's least favorite episode of the
It
entire
probably
show.
is. Yeah,
To be
that
honest.
weird Warriors reference that they had in there. So there's that other sensitive character that Elle connects with when she runs away, and she kind of just disappears. I had theorized that at some point she might come back because you kind of
Yeah.
have to. I mean, she's this like loose agent with
Right.
abilities out there. So she's back. She's the one that's behind the vault door, the one that they're suppressing. I don't know what else she's doing. She's like attached to this whole thing, which I don't know if that was. I'm gonna assume that's a Superman reference because
Hmm.
there's a Superman where they put him in like this red sun chamber, and they're able to like sap his powers. Where it's kind of like Supergirl from the Flash movie.
Oh
How they
yeah.
have her locked up and suppressed until she's able to break free.
Mm-hmm.
So they break her out. But yeah, so Eight's back, another character that has abilities. Our theory. Do you want to get into it since it's yours?
No, you go for it. Do I have a theory about this
You
one?
did. Yeah, we discussed this.
Oh, okay. Well, tell me my theory. Maybe I'll like it.
You probably like it. Our theory is that she's probably going to side with Vecna. He's been
Oh, yes.
famously devoid of allies, at least of a sentient nature or of a
Yes.
willing nature, I should say. And Eight seems like the type. She's been very poked and prodded and tested and
Yes.
rebellious and does not care for the human race, it seems.
Yeah, I could very much see a narrative in which she does not feel sympathy for humanity after whatever it is that she's gone through.
Right.
I mean, you know, there would be a linkage there. Like it's a lever for which Vecna could pull on to try to get her allegiance.
Mhm.
So if the pieces align, he could do that. But it is interesting because they've only got like 4 more episodes. To introduce her now is kind of like, all right, so we're going to need to catch up basically on what her story is and what role she has to play in this.
She'll probably have a whole episode dedicated to it.
Maybe. So we do another Warriors thing? I feel like that was a bad move before. Maybe we don't revisit that
I don't know
part
if you
from
do
season 3.
If you do it right with Vecna pulling the strings, it would be. I think
Okay.
they could pull it off. We'll see.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have anything else there? I feel like we pretty much covered all of that.
Pretty much. I just want to say, though, that I really love how Elle is depicted, where she's just self-actualized, basically. And so, like, when she enters the base, like, all of her, like, thinking it through and, like, her movements are very, like, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But then she's, like, running on instinct, which is very
Practiced and-
Wolverine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she has a lot of cool, like, similarities to other characters.
Yep.
In, like, larger
In all the
pop
right
culture.
ways.
In all the right ways, yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. So
So-
she's just a really enjoyable character to watch.
She
now.
is. Yeah, she's fully developed and using everything, all of her tools at her disposal, which is great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to use this as a jumping off point. One of the things that Elle is doing in this whole sequence is fighting against Hopper. Hopper's being overprotective and trying to push her out of of harm's way, and she's refusing that, thinking, "I'm of help. This reality exists. There's no sense in denying that. I'm going to do what I can about it. I'm going to do the right thing." And I know that, you as a parent or you as a guardian don't want that. I don't want me in danger, but I have to step up. I'm a grown adult now with fully fledged abilities and all this training. Like, what am I going to do? Go just sit and hide away until it's over?
Mm-hmm.
That's to say, if it will end, like, we don't know that it would if I'm not involved. So
Right.
that is mirrored by Will and Joyce. And I think that's a good hopping off point to get into that whole side of things.
Sure.
Okay, so Joyce has the same issue, trying to be overprotective of Will, doesn't want him in danger. Reasonably so. I mean, she went through a whole season of him basically kidnapped and having to deal with that whole reality. So now that he's back and in the midst of all this danger and having some weird connection with all this darkness, she's, of course, wanting to keep him sheltered as well.
Yes.
So this leads to Robin coaxing him out of his shell until he's finally able to stand up and say, "You know what, Mom? I'm gonna be out here in the world. I'm sorry, but I've got to do something. If I have the ability, with great power comes great responsibility," or whatever.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, from some, I don't remember what it was. Superman probably. So that is going on with the arc. So that leads to Mike and Will having a couple of discussions about that as well. And I'm trying to remember how that sequence went to make sure that I'm staying in order. There was a lot in these 2 episodes, so it's tough to keep it all in.
Yeah, they really keep you on your toes.
They
just
do.
cram so much into every episode.
Which is great.
Yeah.
It's just hard to commentate on in a short manner. Okay, so Mike,
Is that what the main thing though, that you wanted to just establish the parallel happening between the two?
I wanted the parallel, but I wanted it to lead into now where Mike takes that because Will is concerned about it himself, obviously. So
Right.
Mike has a conversation with him in which he kind of points out the similarities. Will is basically saying, I'm able to see all this weird stuff, but I'm not Vecna. But Mike pushes back on that and says, it's almost kind of like you are, actually. So, but that's not a bad thing because you're not like trying to invade people's mind. You don't like have these evil intentions that Vecna does.
Right.
So he presents it in a way that it's like maybe this is a good thing. Maybe it's not something you should ignore. Like it is there, which seems to be a
Right.
common theme with this season. Maybe it's something that you should like explore
Yeah.
with your good intention. And
Right.
it's done in a very respectful, nice way, as Mike would. And this is one
Yeah.
of the things we like so much about him in this season, is that he's taken on this leadership role so well to be able to be the bridge between the overprotective mother, the very doubtful Will, and then take all those things and then this clear reality and take those things to be able to like hand it back to Will and say, no, you have agency over this thing. You should exercise that and
Mm-hmm.
be able to use this, harness this thing rather than be afraid of it.
Yeah.
Which is what Robin kind of started.
Yeah, and I like how he frames it, and Will kind of wants to dismiss it and like, oh, but that's like D&D. And he's like, well, yeah, but like in real life, it's kind of like this. And so he just makes this very simple parallel between the
Mhm.
two and then kind of lets him solve the rest. And like Mike doesn't really know, he doesn't really have the answers, but he's very good by following his instincts as well.
Right.
And knowing that like I'm good at this stuff of figuring out like where's the right question to ask?
Sure.
Because that's what he does with Nancy in episode 2, I think it was, in the hospital,
Oh yeah.
where he starts to interrogate the idea of like, okay, this Mr. What's It, we should try to figure out who that is. And Nancy's like, well, that's just like a waste of time. And he's like, well, hold on, like maybe it's not a waste of time. Like I don't know how it's purposeful, how it pertains yet, but it is interesting that
Sure.
what Mr. Watson comes to Holly, tells her that there's monsters and stuff, and then she gets attacked by a monster that same day.
Yeah.
Like that's really weird coincidence. And like Lucas said, there's no such thing as coincidence anymore. He doesn't believe in that. So he's kind of like,
It's
again,
something. It's a good starting point. We might as well just do it.
yeah, that kind of like dungeon mastery. Like I see the whole picture. I don't know how everything fits together yet, but like, oh, everybody, look over here. Look at this question.
Right.
And
Roll
you can
for discovery.
Yeah, roll. Yeah, yeah, roll too. Exactly. But he and you see it, I think, kind of crescendo at the end scene. This huge battle breaks out, and we'll provide context for that in a moment. But in this huge battle, it's him who steps up to the plate to like protect the kids and Will and Joyce. And he's like, okay, everybody, like eyes on me, like follow me, and then like we're gonna go and do this. And so it's like this really chaotic, super dangerous situation. And it's like, if they panic, they're just going to scatter and then they're going to get
Right.
killed. So he's like, okay, let's keep everybody to group, stay behind me, follow me. And then he texts in like a couple times. It's just, again, it's such a great aspect to see his character just like, this is what I'm good at. This is what I can do really well. Because, Mike doesn't have, I think in the last season, they explored how there was a bit of like, he was starting to feel insecure because he's like, Al has all these powers and stuff and I don't.
Right.
I feel like such a loser. Like she should be with somebody like way cooler than me. And then now he's kind of like, well, here's the things that I do have to give.
Right.
And she's happy with me, so I'm gonna be happy about that.
And he fills it in. I mean, one of the things that I learned at a previous job was in those type of situations, those real kinetic, dangerous situations, better to just, like you were saying, to prevent the panic. It's just to make a decision. If you're too locked into which one's the right decision, you won't make any, and then you'll fail.
Right.
The point is to like go, and so he's constantly in there just making those decisions, like you were saying, herding them together, and we're just gonna go somewhere. We got to get out of this situation. We just need to move. So like, I'm just gonna lead, follow, and then let's just do that.
Right.
And it's great to see that he's like calm under that stress because that is what a leader needs to be.
Right.
And so, like you said, when he's looking at everything, he's like, I'm not skilled in any one of these areas, but I know how to make sure to use the tools appropriately. I can point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Like, you take care of this, you do that. I'll go this way and just follow behind me, etc.
Yeah.
So it's really like I said, Mike is great this season.
Yeah.
If you haven't caught on, fantastic. Okay.
I got sidetracked on Mike again.
It's all right.
Such a great character, though.
Yeah, they really nailed him this time.
I was kind of miserable with him in the last season or two. I was just like, oh, he's not really doing anything.
He's stumbling around a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just kind of this tween stage. And now it's like.
Took a stand. It was great.
All right. Okay, so where do you want to go now?
Okay, let's jump into Dustin real quick. Because there's a scene in here that I thought was great. I hadn't noticed it before. Then you're like, this feels a lot like Ghostbusters. So they're riding around in this fan, and it's got like this spinning like antenna on top, and that's how they track Hopper in the Upside Down. This is all designed, of course, by Dustin, who's this genius when it comes to mathematics and radio technology. So he's the one that set it all up. But they're realizing that they need something smaller and faster, and so he looks over at the beamer that Steve Harrington has.
Yeah,
he's like, there it is. So they attached all this stuff, and it's very reminiscent of Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
and it's not quite a Hearst, but whatever. It's still fun. It would have been great if it was a Hearst. I kind of wish that it was, but whatever. I guess that would be hard narratively to make sense. So that was another reference that we thought was fun. That was when they start driving through people's backyards.
Yeah,
they're chasing down the Demogorgon. So in the previous episode, when they had trapped it, oh no, this is episode 3. When they trapped it, and they want to chase it down into the Upside Down, they are faced with a decision. That decision is whether they want to stay in our world or if they want to go into the Upside Down, one of which they can actually do something. So the rest of the crew follows Demogorgon into the Upside Down. So now we have most of our cast in the Upside Down.
Did you want to go into there, or did you want to cover the dinner scene first? Because we got to cover the dinner scene.
It's fair. We do need
so
to cover
funny.
The scene. That's true. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit.
Okay, let me rewind you then. So, in order to do this crazy plan, Will figures out that okay, we're gonna have to we gotta catch the Demogorgon, and it's gonna come after Derek Turnbow, who's, I'm not gonna say it here because it's a family show, but everybody has a name for him, and it's not very nice.
Not very nice
because he's not a very nice kid. So they're like, it sucks that we have to save this kid, but we got to do it anyways. So then what happens is they're like, well, we need someone. Mike, again, his ingenious plan is like, well, we need someone who can gain their trust, who can go in and kind of knock them out with sleeping pills or something like that.
Yeah.
Again, like, I don't know how, but we'll do it somehow, right? So what they decide to do is enlist Erica,
who is Derek's sister's best friend, ex-best friend.
Which, coincidentally, going back to my theory, Erica is in science class. And what are they talking about in science class?
Black holes.
Wormholes. Exactly. And what other analogy would you need for a dimensional door?
Oh, that's interesting. That's fair. They are.
I don't think it was arbitrary that they were talking about wormholes.
I forgot about that.
Okay.
Yep.
So they pull her out of class, explain the situation to her, and she's like, well, I'm not friends with, Derek's sister anymore, Tina. And they're like, okay, we'll just pretend to make up or whatever. So that way we can, get in there. And she's like, all right, fine. So she agrees to do it. And they get like some sleeping medication from the hospital in another sequence. And they put it in this pumpkin pie. And then she brings it over. And like, when she opens the door, Tina's there. And Erica has like these fake tears, and she's like, I'm just so sorry.
Worked it up like a psycho little sister. It's just
so great.
I brought you pie, and I'm so sorry it happened that way. Which is like, so Tina hugs her, accepts that apology,
right,
without question,
right. And then they go,
sit down at dinner.
They have dinner. They're eating this pie, and this whole sequence is just hilarious because the dad's over there like, there's something different about this pie, and she's like,
rosemary.
Or
rosemary.
Nutmeg.
Yeah,
nutmeg. Sure. That's what it was.
He's such an idiot.
And he's slurring over his words, and then Derek's like, Dad's wasted again. And then the parents are eating the pie, and then they get all loopy, and then they collapse, right? And
then, before they collapse, Tina's not eating it. And she's worried about the calorie intake. But what's her name doesn't want to accept that. Erica's just like trying to push.
She's like, well, I use low-fat milk, so you're fine, or whatever. Yeah. And she's like, that's okay, I'm not hungry. And she's like, but I made it for you. And Erica, yeah, you're right, because she's so great in that scene. Like, the two of them are. Because Tina, that actress, has like her expression doesn't really shift in any way.
It does not reach her eyes. It's creepy.
Yeah, it's just like total neutral state all the time.
And it's funny because Lucas makes a comment because everyone's like, didn't you say Tina's a villain? Because they like hug and she invites Erica in, and they're all watching this, the group across the street, and everyone's like, Lucas, didn't you say Tina's like terrible? And he goes, oh no, she's a psychopath. She like kills puppies and stuff. And you're like, what? And then you get in there and she's just making these expressions. Like she's mad about the calories and that Erica would even deign offer her pie.
Yeah.
But then she starts to catch on that Erica's being weird about wanting her to eat this pie.
Yeah.
But she's making these expressions that aren't reaching her eyes. And I don't know how this actress did that, but boy, it's unsettling. And so all this is happening and the dad gets up and he walks over. He's like, I feel weird. And then he falls over and the wife is like, oh no. She gets up to go help and then she falls over. And then Derek's just laughing hysterically. And then he falls over. All this happens, and then Tina's like, this is bad. I'm in danger.
Right. So
she
you gotta
goes
call
over.
911, Erica. Yeah. She doesn't suspect that she's the one who's done this.
And then Erica's like, should have eaten your pie. And she pulls out the syringe and just right in the neck. Like, and like, whoa.
The way they set it up is totally out of a horror film because Tina turns around and it's like, just like screaming. And then like Erica just comes in and they give her this like kind of low
the Dutch
side,
angle,
yeah, and then she just to her neck. You're like, dang,
got him. So all that to just grab Derek, this chaos. They just want to get Derek because they know he's the target.
Right.
They pull him out, put him in this barn. Barn scene is just as funny.
Yeah.
So
because he wakes up. And then Joyce is like,
of course, she's naturally mad about it.
He ate 2 slices of pie, and she's like, he did.
A lot of resilience in that one.
Kid. So she's like, he should be out. Like, what's going on?
He's awake now. He worked through all that pie already.
Because they talk about there's so many variables, like how much they've had to eat that day, how much they've drank that day, how old they are, their body, like weight,
BMI and all that.
Yeah, all that stuff. And so the fact that he just like shakes that off real quick, it's barely got like 30 minutes.
So he wakes up. Joyce, being the motherly type, tries to go over and talk him down. And she was like, I'm going to untie you, okay? Just promise that you'll act nicely. He goes, okay, sure. She unties him. He totally takes out the whole crew. Flips. He just flips out. Runs up the ladder, kicks over the ladder. He's sitting up in the loft, and they're all like trying to plead him down because they're like, you're actually in danger. A monster's coming. We're not kidding. You need to come down.
Right.
Eventually, the monster actually comes. So this is the part that finally settles in to what I guess we wanted to get into.
Well, a couple of things first. I do think we got to cover some of the jokes that have been coming up.
Okay.
So, because it's interesting, and I don't want to like end on that note, and I don't know if I have too much to say, but I do think at least one joke is pretty interesting. So when Erica shows up at the house, she rings the doorbell, and the shot is from the interior, and the mom is like, "Okay, Derek, go wash your hands. Tina, go answer the door." And she's like, "And be nice, unless it's a Mormon or a Democrat." And I thought that was a really interesting choice of a joke.
It was.
The Mormon
because they
one,
do not expound on it at all.
No.
It's not talked about it anymore.
Right.
That's it.
So, like, on the one hand, like, the Mormon one is like, okay, yeah, Mormons, you're going to take that joke because everybody finds it very annoying when you come, knocking on our doors trying to get us to join your
they're
religion.
going to be pushy, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and, people don't want that solicitation. So then when she passes it on, includes Democrats in that equation, the interesting thing about this is you don't usually see that. In fact, in recent years, I've seen a lot of media that will take pot shots at conservatives or Republicans.
Sure.
So this was like the inverse of that. And I thought, well, that's a curious choice. On the one hand, if I'm to dig a little deeper into it, we could say that the characters, this is not a super nice family. So perhaps like it's not meant to be taken that way. But I would disagree with it because the way she presents it, it's very clearly like this is just a joke for the audience that she's throwing out there. It only really makes sense realistically because it is Indiana, but also this is the 80s, so this is Reagan era.
This is late 80s too, I think. It's like 87 or something like that.
Yeah, the sentiments towards Democrats at that time was not very nice because
Super
Jimmy
negative.
Carter had really, really roughed up the economy. So everyone was just like not interested in what they're selling. So time in the context of the time, it makes sense. But I thought it's interesting because I mean, isn't that all of Stranger Things? It's like they reference something from the past, from the '80s,
Hmm.
but then they bring it up to the present, and then it has to have some kind of
Well,
like
we're
connection
viewing
now.
from the prism of the present, so like
Right.
it's inevitably going to have double meanings.
Yeah.
So that was why we were trying to like. We're probably overthinking this far too much, but at the same time, it was like seems like a very intentional couple of words here.
Right.
Like Mormons and Democrats, like, because there's obviously a bunch of political upheaval right now where
Right.
they have a bit of a negative view at the moment.
Right.
But also, like, both sides kind of have a negative view. But it was interesting that she mixes it with Mormons because Mormons are inherently conservative, but they are inherently annoying too when they come to your door. And so it's like, what? It was just an interesting one to like want to delve into because it felt so intentional, but also
Yeah.
it felt like it's something you could just throw in there and people would just think about it regardless. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you don't really have to add any more meaning to this. It should just because it was coming
Yeah.
from you don't have any context of the mom, but you have context of the kids, specifically Derek. So you can add in like I guess some of their intentions by what the kids believe or how they act
Mm-hmm.
because they're like a rich upscale um bratty family. Like
Yeah.
obviously Derek has a very negative reputation around his peers.
Yeah, and like he's got like a full-on arcade cabinet in his room. That's
Right.
super expensive. The dad has like two massive wine racks, and he's like,
He's got a whole
"Oh,"
wine
like,
cellar. It was
yeah.
yeah.
So he's got a whole cellar dedicated to that. So
Right.
you're like, all right, they're pretty well off.
So anyway, kind of an odd tangent, but it was something that was like, I wonder what we were going for here. But all right.
Yeah, I thought it was, if nothing else, I kind of like what you're saying about they're just pointing out like I hesitate to say like the extreme side of groups and just being like those are the
Maybe.
annoying ones. Because to lump all Democrats into that is obviously too much and unfair. But that is partly the narrative climate of what's going on right now. Is just like that they've lost the plot and that they've gone way too far into the progressive movement of things, and that's what's hurt their particular image, right?
Could be if it has a double meaning. I mean, who knows? It might have been just a throwaway line that they thought was funny.
But why
That's
would
it.
they think that was funny? Because that's the thing,
Well, because
right?
it is relevant to both ages. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because that was the whole thing. Like I remember when I was watching The Good Place, and there was this joke in the last season that came out somewhere in the early 2020s, and I think that's when it came out, anyways. And they have this joke attacking just how like people who don't believe in vaccines are just like the most insane, ludicrous people on the planet. And I remember that joke coming across, and it was like, it's the reflection of what's happening in the present climate. Because in the old days, like in the 80s, you wouldn't really pay attention to that quite as much. You'd pay attention to like box office sales.
Sure.
That matters.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But nowadays it's very different, and your success rate is kind of ubiquitous. It's really hard to shift through all that and see exactly what's working. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't have like a deeper thing to comment on the matter. I just thought it was a very interesting choice, especially given that there are left-leaning tendencies in Stranger Things. Not heavily, but there's definitely a decent number of them, specifically with Robin. I think we pointed out before. So yeah, I thought it was nice to see them, I guess. If they were just poking fun at themselves or just willing to poke fun at anybody, then I'm for it.
Well,
I
the
think
best comedy is the one that doesn't really hold back on any group for any reason. Just
yeah,
it has no holds bar. That's the point.
yeah.
Okay, so then I guess we'll go to one that didn't quite land. It was weird. And that was there's a scene where Murray and Nancy are interacting, and Murray is trying to convince Jonathan to up his game because Nancy's clearly conflicted on who she's interested in with Jonathan or Steve. And so
Yeah.
he's like conspiring with Jonathan a very short distance behind Nancy, and Nancy is picking up certain things, and so she makes a comment about how she's a good shot and she can shoot small sacks at a long distance.
The potato sacks that they're carrying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what she's meaning for sure. It was a very odd and out of place joke. Felt like they were trying too hard.
On and on and on with it.
And it lasted too long. He decided that it was a good time to explain that his sacks weren't small to Jonathan, who's
like,
much, much younger than he is. It was just odd. So a couple of bits of humor that I guess didn't land. Some of the things we weren't so stoked about with Stranger Things.
Well, I mean, I feel like I want to say they've done this before because it comes up again, which is why we're bringing it up. A different joke, but similar type, where Robin's talking about
Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Yeah, and then of course, obviously, you make the connection there, and that joke goes on for way too long as well. It's just like on and on and on. And then there's something Lucas says that doesn't even really make sense. It's just like,
so it seems like in the writers' room, they used that reference and then thought it was funny how it could be taken, and then they just wrote down all the ways it could be taken, and then they just put them all in the show. I was like, you could have just thrown all these out. Like, it's funny in the writers' room, but why would you keep them all? It doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, we went a little too far with the sex jokes, but outside of that, humor's been pretty good.
I guess it makes sense because it's not technically a kid's show because of all the horrific elements in it.
No, you got a bunch of kids cussing and stuff. I mean, it's always been an older show, but still, it's lowbrow humor. It just, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what the interesting thing that is discovered in that is that Jonathan is apparently preparing to propose, is what we discover.
Right.
He
so
has
he
a
gets a
ring.
tape with R&B or jazz or whatever, and inside that is a ring. So he's supposed to play it and woo her and propose.
Yeah.
They don't go anywhere else with that except for the fact that they have led, or they have presented the fact that Nancy is torn between, or at least it is believed that that's the case because of the previous season and her actions with Steve. So Jonathan, this might be like his last ditch effort, or it might be something organic. We're not really sure. We can tell that he's upset at Steve for these macho games that he's putting him through. But that is something that is introduced. But again, it's not expounded upon any further. So
yeah,
just another thing in the show.
What do you think is going to happen with that? It's the last chance to convey some theories.
I think she's still getting back with Steve.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think because it's like the investment is wrong. It's not right. She's not going to say yes.
I think Jonathan's going to be one to break it off. I think he's finally going to give it up. He's going to be like, I can see you're conflicted. You're not going to do anything about it. I think he's going to do the honorable thing and feel like I'm going to let you go. That's just my theory.
Do you think either one will die?
I don't know. I don't know anymore. They've really kind of flipped me on my head with these 4 episodes. So, speaking of which, okay.
Yeah, I've kept you from it long enough.
So jumping into the barn, Will presents the idea Mike presents the idea Will's like Vecna, and the way that they show that is that a Demogorgon comes in for Derek, and Joyce jumps up as she does, grabs an axe, and starts swinging it at the Demogorgon. And rather than acting back, the Demogorgon just kind of backs up.
Yeah.
And then you're shown that Will is like seizing up again. Every time someone with these things shows up, he just starts suffering. So he's like on the floor convulsing and such.
And we're seeing through the eyes of the Demogorgon, which is, of course, what Will's seeing, Joyce swinging at him.
So Mike presents later. He's like, do you think that you're just seeing it, or do you think you have some kind of control on this situation? Because it seems like if you're connected somehow to Vecna,
that
maybe
would be a two-way street.
You have some kind of influence. Yeah, maybe there's something there. And so that boosts Will's confidence again to where he's like, maybe I am useful. Maybe I'm not just a useless, lumbering mess every time one of these things shows up. Maybe this is something I can tap into. So that's presented. And then obviously you continue on through the show. So it's presented that like you have multiple avenues now that are starting to build.
Yeah.
And so like what is possible within this universe, which is interesting because you obviously have El and you have Vecna. And you've got like 8 and stuff and all these different things. And Will's always had like these abilities. He's always been sensitive, I suppose. He's presented as a wizard before he's even brought to the Upside Down.
Right.
But then when he leaves the Upside Down, he's able to like, he sees things that other people can't. He's invaded by that monster at one point. He can see when things are coming to attack. He was used as a double agent at one point. So like, there's a lot of things there that are finally culminating into more, and Will is actually taking that and becoming a better character for it. And that's another part of this season that, especially within episodes 3 and 4, have really come to fruition in a really fun way. Because like Mike holds the first 2 episodes for sure, but Will starts to take a lot more of the spotlight as 3 gets further into the episode, and then finally into 4. So that I just wanted to present that there because the rest I wanted to go over in episode 4. But do you have anything more to add from there?
No, I think you set the stage perfectly.
Okay, so we just jump into. Yeah, I think we should jump into episode 4.
Will's a sorcerer.
Just gonna lead with it.
Well, so that's the analogy that Mike presents, which is so apt because, like he describes, it's exactly how it is in D&D. It's if you're a wizard, you study magic. That's where you get your powers from. You learn how to do it. But if you're a sorcerer, the origins are more mysterious. It could be a bloodline. It could be a gift. It's something
It's
happens
innate,
to
is
you.
what he said. Yeah.
It's innate. Yeah, it comes within you, and then you have to channel that energy. And so that's what happens. Is that Will finally at the moment of truth, Vecna shows up. He's killing it with his Demogorgons, and he kills like all the military guys, and then he takes the kids, and then he leaves, and then he sends out the Demogorgons to finish off his friends. So Mike's gonna die, Robin's gonna die, Lucas is gonna die, and then that's when it happens. And do you want to kind of give the rest of the lay of the land? Because I know I'm gonna go on a huge rant. I got a ton to say about this.
Okay. Well, let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
So I just want to start this by saying we love Derek. Great addition. I know we're tangenting a little bit, but I'm gonna make this sweet. Derek, fantastic, hilarious addition. Holly and Max go a little bit further. There's not a whole lot that I want to say over this episode.
Okay.
Unless you want to.
No.
I'm kind of wanting to just go with Will, so I'm just gonna
just go for.
run
That's
through this.
my window. Do you want to give the rest of Will's story before?
Well, I do want to. Let's do the breakout at least.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll do this because the breakout's so funny.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so Mike brings up that they've got to save all these kids, and this is what ends up leading to Will doing his thing. But Mike presents his theory. They develop a plan. They go in. They want to tunnel under this base, save these kids, and the way that they do it is with Derek. And this is why we love Derek. So Derek infiltrates because he's one of the kids that they want anyway. So they send him in. He goes in willingly. He goes to the kids and he begins to act like a disciple of Vecna.
Yeah, he's like proselytizing to them.
He's like, anyone who has seen Mr. What's-It, join me. We will. He's like, join me in the latrine. So he's like leading them in a meditation.
And his descriptions are so hilarious. He's like, and you're on a beach with the blue ocean, as blue as a Smurf.
So good.
And the water lapping up against your ankles, just like a dog laps up some water to drink.
So good. So he's notified that they've dug under the latrine, the toilet.
Via walkie-talkie in his lunchbox.
Yeah, he's got a little G.I. Joe lunchbox. They pop it open, and they're going to start to filter the kids through the ones that they know are targets from Vecna. This leads, obviously, to all the humorous portions of the show. As they're digging through, they start hitting a water pipe. But they don't realize the problem at first, so they signal Derek. Derek starts smacking kids with a ruler that he wants to go as so the one by one, snack, walk into the bathroom, go down the tunnel, and they're going to be led off by a group of strangers.
I love the
into
smacks,
the darkness. Too. Yeah, because every time he gets the signal, he smacks. So he smacks multiple kids. He gets to the last one, and that's when all hell starts to break loose. The water pipes start to burst. So you have Mike and Will trying to hold these water pipes shut.
Yeah.
It's like a comedy show, and this bathroom's starting to flood. So these kids, I wanted to pull it up, but I didn't think that we had the time, and I don't want to be copyright struck, but there's a scene in there where the last kid's going down, and this girl comes in and sees the chaos, and she pops open the door. Mike and Will are like, are you here for Mr. What's-It? And she goes, what? And then she looks over, and the last kid has his head just peeked up under the stall from the floor.
Yeah. His eyes get all big, and
they're
like,
huge.
and then
he
just descends, just drops down.
So funny. So after that happens, the military finds out that they've been breached. They go in, they capture Mike, Will, Joyce, and Derek. And as that happens, they're pulling him in. They're trying to warn them of the danger. Vecna arrives. So Vecna arrives. All that happens. Will comes into something. So as Vecna pulls Will to him first and says something along the lines of the reason that he chose Will in the first place was that he was young and he's weak.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I wanted to bend you to my will. It didn't work quite as well as I wanted, but now that I've learned all my lessons, I'm going to take all these other kids. And I think he says that there's 12 of them that they're going to be picking up.
Yeah.
And that's probably how many there were originally that they built from one or from Vecna.
Oh, I see.
Because you have 11, so I'm assuming there was either one more or they were counting Vecna.
Yeah.
So there's the 12 original. And that's probably a reference to Christ or something and his 12 disciples. But he's got 12 kids, and he's pulling them out. Basically, the good guys lose. All the kids get kidnapped.
Right.
And then Vecna sends back his goons to go kill all of Will's friends and that's when Will decides to tap into whatever it is that Vecna left him.
Right.
And becomes a sorcerer. So he now has all the abilities that El's got, or Vecna's got, or both. We don't really know, but he's able to control the Demogorgons, and then he kills them in a way that's similar to the way Vecna would kill his victims in the previous season.
Right.
So clearly making a distinction, and his eyes are like the cloudy white, and yeah, he's like all messed up. But it's fascinating because he comes to, and he's used it for good.
Yeah.
So now he is officially the sorcerer of the group.
Yeah.
So with that, I didn't have anything else to say. I kind of over the breakup, which I thought was funny. Or the breakout was just hilarious.
Yeah.
You have a huge essay or something that you want to go over with Will.
Yes.
Okay. So I will let you go.
I'm going to spitball it, and then I'll go to my phone if I need reminders of some of the things I forgot. So the way this is handled, it is, and I'm totally on board with saying that this is one of the best character transformations ever put to film. Everything about it is so thoughtfully constructed.
There were so many pieces that the more you think about it, the more you see how well they led up to that point. It doesn't come out of nowhere. You don't expect it. I did not expect him to reveal it like that.
Yeah.
But when it shows up, you're like, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Right. Everything is now connected. And it was so satisfying, too, because we had guessed completely wrong about what was going to happen with Will.
Yep.
And I'm glad we did, because this is such a more satisfying
yes, it is.
Resolution to this arc. So here's the thing. Will essentially kind of closes his eyes and he goes back to these memories that he has. And it's kind of like your life flashes before your eyes. And this is what Robin had described to him, is that she went through some like old photos and videos of like herself as a kid. And in that kind of came to terms with like, wow, like there's a version of myself that was so much more free. And that version of myself wasn't really concerned about what other people thought. It was just an acknowledgement of like who I was, and learning to accept all of that myself and not be scared of myself was what I had to overcome. And so Will takes that message to heart, because this is very much something that's been like a curse over him since the very beginning. And in the case of Robin, it's the fact that she's gay and that this is not an acceptable thing to be in her time and place in the world. And so her coming, through to the other side and being able to accept that part of herself makes sense for her. But for Will, it's a little bit more abstract. And so because
more for the Stranger Things universe rather than anything relatable necessarily.
Right. But the thing is it could apply either way. And there's a number of different reasons for that. The main thing that we see Will doing is doing his art. And so I think it's very much a representation of that sort of inner artist that comes out. Because here's the thing, when you let the best artist is someone who does not placate or care what the rest of the world thinks.
Yeah.
That's why they're so noteworthy, is because they have something to say and something to share. And at some point you have to, as that artist, say, you're all wrong because you're not me. You don't have my life experience. You don't know. So Will is the one who did experience the upside down, and he's the only one who experienced that in the way that he did specifically. And so he's the only one who can properly communicate to the rest of us what that means, right?
Sure. Okay.
So what happens is then he comes out of it and he's controlling the Demogorgons, and his eyes are like flipped back, which is not how Elle does it, because her eyes are fine. So he's like in part like sort of lost himself in it, right? And I thought that was interesting because he's not harnessing the same power as Elle is necessarily. Because with Elle, it's like a part of herself that was never really in question about its morality. But with Will, it is in question because he's doing the same thing Vecna does. Like, he's killing the Demogorgons exactly the way that Vecna kills his villain or his enemies. So when he does that, he is harnessing like dark magic, basically.
Sure.
And that's the thing about, take it to what you will. You could be the artist attacking or discussing the taboo in life. You could be, the LGBT theme where you are going into a realm that other people or most of society has, been oppressively or critical of or skeptical or distrustful, whatever word you want to insert, right? Could be any of those things, right? But then, and of course, in the world of Stranger Things, this is now like his severing from everybody else, right? Because now, like before, Elle had grown up in the space of being like this experiment, right?
Yeah, it's
And
just
then
secluded just by her nature.
right. And then she gets released and has to learn how to acclimate back into society. But with Will, it's like he had something terrible happen to him that nobody understood or wanted to address. And then he comes back and then gets to pretend to be a part of regular society again. But really, it is just pretending. And there's where that acknowledgement comes in, where he recognizes, okay, I am this other thing. I am this sorcerer, right? And it's so apropos too that like when he's doing all this, there's like this roaring fire behind him because it's like this chaotic force that now he's embodied. Yeah, that he's harnessing, exactly. And even like there's this really cool shot that I just in our rewatch I realized was parallel with Elle, and it's that you see him open up his palms one at a time, and it's kind of like at first I was like, wow, he's just like relinquishing all that fear and that like the childhood self, because we remember back in like season 2 or 3 where he's trying to get his friends to go back and play D&D and like be kids again because that was taken from him, and they're like, well, we've moved on, we have other things that we're concerned about. And then he's like really angry at himself because he's like, I'm just being so childish to want that,
right? But he wants to go back to something before all that hurt and terror and all that. Yeah.
Right. But that's what makes him a tragic figure now, because he can't go back. And when he releases, it's like he's recognizing that, oh, I'm not going to have those good memories anymore. They're gone. And so now he is a dark wizard. You see what I mean?
Sure.
He's still fighting for good, but it's like that is, of course, the fear is that like if I give into this power, is it going to corrupt me? Will I then become just like Vecna? And so having to step past that line on a leap of faith and be like, well, my younger self was actually a really good person. I should trust him. You know what I mean? Which is exactly what Will was saying to Holly, was like, here's Mike the Brave. Or Mike was saying to Holly, where he's like, here's Mike the Brave. And you have Holly the Heroic. And like everybody has like a second self who's like the better version of us. And that's who we look to kind of like find strength if we really need it. And so when Will does it, he's scared because he's like, well, my better self is a scary person.
Sure.
He can freaking like levitate somebody and then like break their bones. Like that's disgusting. But at the same time, Will is like, or I mean, Mike is like, yeah, but you're a good person, remember? And Robin's like, well, when I looked back, I was a good person. How come you're not? So I just thought it was a really beautiful, reflective moment of just like an encapsulation of so much for this character. And then there's this parallel shot, like where he's, where he releases it. There's another one of Elle where she kind of closes her palms when she's going to try to open the door in the security base. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. She's in a phase where she's like, buckle up. Like, I've learned this stuff and I have control over it.
Yeah.
But for Will, it's like, I have to let go of trying to control this version of myself so I can let this other version, like, have some room. It's dark and it's scary. And it's going to, in many ways, make me a freak against the world. But I was already zombie boy, and I need to accept that. You know what I mean?
Maybe in the next one, he'll have like a spandex suit and ZB on the chest or whatever.
I don't think so, but sure.
Yeah, the interesting thing, too, is that is almost like a part of his identity, and that's how they're presenting it, at least. But it's something he was repressing, whereas with Elle, it's something she uses as a tool. It's not part of her identity. All that part of the identity is what they were trying to extract, and what eventually she was able to develop with people that loved her. So when she finally met with Mike and the group, they were people that just accepted her as a person rather than an experiment.
Yeah.
And so now she just like, it's almost innately separated, because she's like, this is just a telekinetic ability. I mean, I can just shift things around and move. It's cool, but like just the Force.
Yeah.
It's I don't believe in the religion of the Force. It's just, this is something I can do. Whereas Will is like, this is something I am.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, there's that distinction. So that's why I think when she closes her fist, it's like time to go to work or time to go to war, whatever she's doing.
Yeah.
It's something she's about to use as a tool rather than something she's about to become. But interesting parallel. I had not noticed that. So
yeah.
I'm glad you did.
How he's just like completely shedding his former self.
Right.
Yeah.
It is nice too because he's really able to convey that as an actor. In the
He is.
in the
Yeah.
beginning portions of the season, the first 2 episodes specifically, he's a lot more timid and unsure of himself, and he's kind of reserved. But then when that happens, like his facial expressions are a lot more relaxed and comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like, all right, well this is it now. This is the reality of the situation. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it anymore. I'm not having to worry about what my mom wants and what these people think I should do or being safe. Like I can now tap into this thing,
Yeah.
whatever that thing is. But I
Mm-hmm.
just I have my friends around me to help with if I get too scared or if I get too far into the dark realm, I guess. Don't need to turn to the dark side. Because he's
Yeah.
got a perfect example. I mean, he knows Vecna's story, but he also knows Elle's story.
Yeah.
And so you've got these contrasts that he's able to pull upon. And then he's got people like Mike who are willing to stand by his side no matter what.
Yeah.
And then his mom who loves him despite all the stuff that's happened. So like it's nice to see that they're really leaning into that D&D party thing. Like
Yeah.
it's about the group. It's about for lack of a better word, it's about the family. It's about what everybody has to contribute and how that helps in certain ways. Cuz like he might be more innately powerful, but he needs someone to check him otherwise he could go down a vector route. But he recognizes that, and that's an interesting thing. So now it
Yeah.
kind of plays into the conversation he had with Mike in the last season about you're the one that holds us all together. It doesn't matter what anybody's innately capable of, or if you have these like abilities or whatever, like Elle does. What matters is what you contribute,
Yeah.
and he contributes that leadership, which obviously we were a big fan of in this season.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's like Mike says, he's like, we could use a little magic up here. He's like, well, you're a sorcerer, you know. He's
Yep.
like, so you can do stuff.
And then he's like, "Oh wait, no, you're a real one. Oh my gosh."
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Yeah, because Mike was probably thinking like, well, maybe you could like figure out more information, or I don't know, just something,
Yeah,
right?
back to the spy thing that they had already done. Not full
Precisely.
on, yeah, control demogorgons.
Right. Like I don't think Mike had any idea that he could do actually that. But
Right.
that's the whole thing is
But the
that
fact that he was willing to accept him and like present the question
right.
and then leave Will to figure out the rest.
Mm-hmm. I also just find I love these kinds of characters too because it's such a it really hits back hard against like you're not knowing who you're talking to, right?
Mm.
Like this whole time everybody has just been like, oh, he's zombie boy, he's this, he's that, he's this, he's that.
He has
He's
never
like
really
soft
had a
sensitive.
chance to prove himself
Right.
for being Will.
And then now that he does, it's like, whoa. You know, there was like clearly this whole other aspect that he's had and just didn't share because it's like, well, this is a terrifying thing
Or maybe
to
he
share.
didn't even know about it himself.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's true, but I also think it's partly the subconscious trying to protect
be.
himself. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think if he was interrogated by it earlier, it would have been clear. But like, it's like that resistance is so strong because it's like,
Yeah.
to him, he's just like, I'm the worst thing ever. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to be that. And so he's going to resist it at all costs. And that's like the crazy thing about it is like, Robin's like, well, don't resist it so much. Like,
Sure.
just remember that there is a good you. Like, why
Yeah.
are you questioning that? That's an odd thing to question. Like, I was a good person. Like, I knew that. I just didn't want to accept it. And then he kind of like remembers, you know what I mean? And
Sure.
it's kind of like, well, I guess I'll have to trust in that. And then, it's such an epic scene. It's so awesome. Everything about that was just perfect.
I don't think anything else to say there. We're only 4 episodes in. We still got more.
I know.
I'm
So-
pretty sure there's 8 episodes in this season.
I think so. Yeah, I think they're doing 3 more on Christmas and then the finale on New Year's.
Yep. So there's plenty more to go.
Yeah.
This was a great 4 episode arc, but
I'm kind of surprised that it's going to end too, because like with Will going through this arc, it is interesting because I would also suspect that his personality would change a little bit because he is harnessing something that you do a move like that, it's going to affect you at some point. It has to.
I mean, he's
because
killing monsters though, so I mean, does it really get rid of a version of yourself?
It's not that; it's the fact that he's so powerful.
Oh, okay.
It's just like, wow, I'm really effing strong. You know what I mean?
My theory on that particular aspect of the show, all of this culminates with Vecna. Like, Henry is the center point of all this. He was the one that was originally had all the powers that they extracted and give to a bunch of other kids.
Mm-hmm.
So because he's there, if and when they get rid of Vecna himself, I think it's going to cut everything off.
Yeah.
Like that source will be gone. So therefore, L8, and now obviously will no longer have that ability anymore, and the Upside Down will no longer exist. I think it's just going to wipe out all that portion of Stranger Things.
I think that's very possible. I do think Elle might be an exception, though, because she studied it outside of it.
But
outside
still,
of Vecna.
the source is still from Henry, though, because they extracted it from him to give to people like
right.
Elle.
Yeah.
So that's my assumption, is that he's like the battery source, I guess. And once that's cut off, then it's over.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I wouldn't say that's a terrible theory. I also think Will is parallel with Vecna in another way because he's one. He's the first one to be like using Vecna's to have been subjected to Vecna's powers and then to use them against him. But it'll be similar with Holly, I think, in that he'll have to like show her like, well, you can do this stuff too, so that way she can create the dimensional door to get them out.
Could be.
I'm still holding to that theory.
So my last final theory is that they're going to end the season with all of that. I think the Upside Down's gone. I think all the powers are gone. They're going to end by going into a session of D&D. They're going to end it like they started it.
They should. That would be cool. I'm down for that ending.
I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But
because that also implies, though, that a lot of characters are actually going to live.
Enough of them will. Enough that, played it. Seems like all the characters pretty much have, so.
And I do feel like that would be a really... Because it was not... Because we were like, well, Will's either going to die or Joyce is going to die. And we were just thinking all of, like, the negative routes they could take.
They're still going to do that.
I'm sure they will do something like that.
Hopper, I think, is still gone.
I'm not sure about that now because they teased it too heavily. So now it seems like, I don't know.
Could be. See.
But I do think it's cool that, like, what they gave Will instead was to have him, like, is this more, like, hopeful but very conflicted message, right? And I thought that was really
it's more akin to real life,
yeah, exactly.
Life is not as idealistic as you want it to be when you get there. Like, oh, this is harder and more painful than I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Which is, greatly exemplified by this character arc. Fantastic.
Yeah, like, who's not going to connect with that?
10 out of 10. Yeah. So
11 out of 10.
Throw in 11 out of 10. Yeah. In case you didn't know, big fans. Well done. For a 4-episode arc. We got 4 more to go. Heck yes. Throw in your theories who's going to die. Because I'm pretty sure that they're going to happen. And stay tuned. I mean, we'll be back as soon as this next set of episodes is out. That's going to be a crazy last episode before the New Year's one.
Yeah.
That's when they're going to throw the hammer down for whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, buckle up. Cool. I think it's good. We'll see you guys after Christmas for the Stranger Things episode. Obviously, we'll have other episodes coming out, but Stranger Things is our jam. Like, this is it. Like, there's so little enjoyment with a lot of the stuff that we consume anymore. Like, this is so much more pure and fun.
Yeah.
It's just exciting to jump into and talk about. We did an hour and 16 minutes on a single, 2 episodes, I guess, but specifically one part of that episode. So
you can break it up into 2 segments if you want.
No, this is gonna be it. This is great. So anyway, join us next time. We'll see you guys in December. Thank you for watching. So you made it to the end of the video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing and leave us a comment. We'd love to hear what you thought.